Hello, this is Justin, and I'm going to show you how to counter the most aggressive openings in chess. So first, we're going to start with the Danish Gambit. This is a very popular opening where white essentially gives away all of their pawns as fast as possible. So the game starts e4, e5. This is how most games start. And then right away, white tries to give away all of their pawns. So they play d4. And whenever our opponent plays a gambit, the way to punish it is most likely going to be to accept it. We're going to take that material and say that they don't have enough compensation for that material and that it wasn't justified. So after d4, we just take it. And then the Danish gambit continues by c3. Again, gambiting another pawn. They could have taken that pawn back, but they want to develop very, very quickly. And this is the idea with c3. So we take, again, to punish it, we need to take the material. That's how to punish these gambits. So after bishop c4, we take another pawn. So we are up 3 pawns right now, but white is going to take back. So it's move 5, but we're already up 2 pawns. That's crazy. Like the game just started and our opponent's already giving away all of their pieces like it's charity work or something. But in this position, this is where I feel like a lot of people struggle. They don't know what to do, they don't know how to develop, and it can spiral very quickly. So I'm going to show you how to counter the opening starting from this position. So here we want to play knight to f6. Knight to f6 is a great developing move, trying to get our pieces out again as fast as possible. This is a very common opening principle. We always want to get our pieces out very, very quickly. So knight to f6 does a great job of doing that and preparing us to castle in the future. So after knight f6, our opponent kind of has 2 options. They can either push this pawn and try to harass our knight even further, or they can protect it with knight to c3. So first, let's look at knight to c3. So they're protecting this pawn, again, continuing with this theme of very quick and fast development. And to counter this, there's this really crazy move that I want to show you that isn't very obvious at all, and it's to play d5. So this is so counterintuitive because there are not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 pieces that can take that pawn, although the queen would probably be bad. But still, it's a very, very controlled square, and we're just moving the piece there anyway. We're just saying white can take that piece back if they want it. And essentially, the reason we're doing this is because we're up 2 pawns, the material doesn't matter as much. What really matters is getting this king castled, getting our pieces developed. We don't want to fall too far behind, and d5 is a great way to kind of um, emphasize that we really need to get developed. We really need to get castled. And white's not just going to be the one with the initiative, the one forcing the issue. So after d5, um, again, white can take back 2 different ways, or really 3 different ways if they take back with the bishop, but we'll look at e takes d5, and after this, all we're going to do is play bishop to d6. We want to develop our pieces and castle, and once we castle, we've pretty much weathered the storm. Once we castle, our king is going to be safe. White is still going to have some pressure, but the main sting of the gambit is going to be taken out of the opening. So um, if we castle, we should be happy. And then if knight takes d5, we have to be a little bit more careful. First, we want to take with the knight. So knight takes d5. We want to be careful not to get too greedy and take this pawn on e4. That can be bad news in general because a move like queen to e2 is already very dangerous, pinning this knight to the king, and it's already very difficult. I think we're just going to lose this knight after a move like f3 in the future. But anyway, after knight takes d5, white takes back, and we have this opportunity to develop with tempo, with bishop to b4 check. And that check is so huge because once they get out of that check, we can castle. So when we play bishop b4, we're undefending this pawn on g7, and this is a pawn we really don't want to lose because when we castle, that pawn is protecting our king, and it's shielding the enemy from infiltrating our position and attacking. It's a wall. So if we allow bishop takes g7, that's just allowing a huge gaping hole in this wall, and we don't want to let that happen. So bishop b4 check is so huge because we kind of throw in a punch, and white has to deal with it, and once they deal with it, that gives us time to castle. So that was knight to c3. We're going to counter with this crazy move d5. And essentially, again, the theme is to develop and castle very, very quickly. So let's look at e5. E5 is a little bit more provocative. They're attacking our knight right away. And again, we're going to play the same exact move. It doesn't matter that our knight is under attack. We still play d5. D5 is just a great move, no matter the position, because we're striking in the center and aiding our development in the future. So after d5, this looks just absolutely crazy because they could just take here. And that's what they're going to do because it's a knight that we didn't, they attacked it and we didn't do anything about it. But here, after they take on f6, we're going to throw in this bishop to b4 check. Again, this is the idea we saw in the last line. And once they defend it with a move like knight to c3, instead of playing d takes c4, instead of capturing this bishop, this wouldn't be great because white would do something like this and then take on g7. They're going to castle, bring their knight in the game. They still have this very quick development. So even though we're up a pawn, it's very dangerous. And if they can hold on to this very, very strong pawn on g7, we could be in some serious trouble. So instead of take on c4, we take on f6. This pawn on f6 is a serious problem. And the reason this works is because it comes with a threat. We are threatening to play bishop takes c3 check because it's supported by the queen and there's only one defender. So we're threatening both bishop takes c3 and d takes c4, and white cannot deal with both of the threats. So it doesn't really matter what white does. Even if they play a move like bishop to b5, it doesn't do anything because we can just play c6. And again, the same problem exists. Both the bishop and the knight are under attack, and there's no way to deal with both of them. So once we reach this position, we're ready to castle, ready to get our pieces into the game. Again, we've weathered the storm, and we've countered the Danish Gambit successfully.